Sitting high in the saddle, nothing else matters. My feet in the stirrups, I'm so happy. There's nothing like the sound of Carolina hoofbeat.
We're here in Corolla today. There's a herd of wild horses behind me. So you often wonder, how did those horses get here? Well, the story kind of goes that they've been here since the 1500s. Some people believe that they washed up from shipwrecks in the Atlantic Ocean. Some people believe that Spaniards came to the islands, settled, and when the Indians attacked, they left the horses in their hasty retreats. So how they got here, who cares? They're here now and they're beautiful. North Carolina is very fortunate to have these wild horses, and in 2010 we recognized the importance of them and made them our state horse. We're going to explore these horses today. We're going to visit with the herd manager. We're going to talk to the Corolla Wild Horse Fund, which does a great job at protecting these horses and making sure that their habitat is maintained for their safety and their health and longevity. And then we're going to visit the rehab facility. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Carolina Hoofbeats. Hi, we're in Corolla, North Carolina today, checking out the wild horses. You can see a few of them behind us here. And with me is Christina Reynolds, and she's their herd manager. Christina, can you tell us a little bit about the wild horse population here?
Sure. We have 100 horses here, and they're colonial Spanish Mustangs. So these are horses that came over with the Spanish colonists in the 1500s. So we currently have 100 in the herd, and that's about 60 females and about 40 males. And they've got 7,500 acres that they roam on. It's 11.5 linear miles by 1 mile.
Wow,
Yeah.
That's a pretty big area.
It is, yeah.
And what do they eat?
Well, as you can see, they eat a lot of grass. This type of area here, this is a scrub grass that domestic horses would eat too. They've got, just behind the fire station here, they've got the dune line, and there's several different species of dune grass and sea oats that they'll eat. And then we also have a marsh area, and they'll go back and eat in the marsh.
That's really cool. So there's plenty for them to eat. They
Plenty for
obviously
them
are
to
fat
eat.
and beautiful.
Yeah.
And what about their water? How do they find fresh water?
Well, there's a lot of areas around here where the rainwater gathers, so they've got that. They also have a canal system they can drink out of, which is fed by the Sound. And the Sound up here is not very salty, so it's within the salinity range that they can drink out of really easily.
Okay. And how do the folks that live here, you know, they interact with the horses really well because they obviously are very well taken care of. What are your rules about horses when people come to visit?
Sure, there's a rule that is put forth by the county that you have to stay 50 feet away from the horses. You cannot feed, entice, or move them. So that rule is followed with varying guidelines, I guess, from locals and from tourists. But we do a lot of education through the Horse Fund, letting people know that these are the rules. And they're as much to protect the horses as they are to protect the people who are visiting, because these are wild horses and they can't hurt people.
Right.
Not if they don't even have to try, but we do try and make sure that everyone knows that that's a rule. We give out a lot of literature. We work with the county deputies, and between all of us, it's a pretty full-time job, but we work really hard at it.
Right. And so if you come to this area to visit, and like myself, you love horses, really resist the temptation to try to touch them or tame them, because you don't want them to get dependent on people. We want them to stay wild, and we want them to be able to live in their natural habitat. They've been here since the 1500s and survived all by themselves, and we're their worst enemy. So is there anything, tell us about this particular group.
This group here is one of our non-traditional family groups. We've got 2 stallions and a mare. They typically hang out pretty close in this vicinity. There's lots to eat, and they get along really well. They're all mature, as you can see. They're all over the age of 5 or so. And this is pretty typical coloring for our group. We've got a lot of bay horses. We have a lot of black horses. We've got sorrels with a flaxen mane and tail. And then we have like a chocolate type liver chestnut. And those are the only colors we have out here.
And what size range do they usually grow?
Most of our horses are between 14 and 14.2. They don't get a whole lot bigger. Part of that is genetics. We do have inbreeding out here, so that has been limiting their body size. Part of it is that the island itself has selected over the last 500 years for a smaller body size, just because it requires less calories to stay alive. And then part of it too is the nutrition that's available to them. While they do have plenty to eat, they are deficient in stuff like crude protein and zinc as they're growing, and that limits their body size to a certain degree.
And how much do you guys as the herd managers interfere with that? Do you do anything special for them?
We don't supplement anything to them. We don't supplement feed, hay, vitamins, minerals, nothing. So we try and leave them as wild and free as possible. We've got another one visiting with us now.
I see.
So we leave them be. The only time we intervene in any way is if there's a medical emergency that they can't resolve by themselves out here, and that's when we step in. We're on call 24/7. And the locals can call us, the tourist companies can call us, and then also the county deputies will call us to take care of the horses.
And if a horse is injured or needs to be removed from the herd, then you guys take care of that how?
We do. We have a vet team that we work with out of Virginia that has 15 years of experience with the wild horses in particular, and obviously many years of experience with domestic horses. And so what we do is we'll use video, we'll use photo, we'll send it to them, we'll consult with them and make sure that this is a horse that can't survive out here and rehab itself by itself. So the vet team will give us some direction whether they need to come out here and treat the horse in the field, or if the horse will be stable enough that we can remove them from the beach to our rehab facility or to the clinic and let them be treated there.
Right, and so we'll be visiting those facilities in just a little bit, so stay tuned. I don't want you to miss a thing.
People from around the Triangle come to Carolina Barbecue of Garner off Highway 70 because they know what they'll get. Authentic Eastern North Carolina chopped barbecue, Southern fried chicken, hush puppies, Brunswick stew, and more. But did you know that they'll come to you? For your next backyard party, company event, graduation party, weddings, rehearsals, or any other occasion, you bring the people, and Carolina Barbecue of Garner will bring the pig. Call 773-0222.
Follow me to Carolina Barbecue. My name is Scout Brookins, and I am the owner of Brookins Construction and MD Barn Master of the Carolinas. At MD Barn Master, we have the best warranty in the business. We have a variety of designs to choose from. Our barns are easily customizable to meet your needs. We have financing available to those who qualify. Our barns are fire resistant and they hold their value with little maintenance. Let us build your dream barn for you today.
With me now is Karen McAlpin, and Karen's Executive Director of the Corolla Wild Horse Fund. And one of the missions of the Corolla Wild Horse Fund is to protect the horses, because while the Outer Banks is a gorgeous place to visit and live, it's not an easy place to be a horse.
No, it certainly isn't. It's a very complex challenge to manage horses, where you get 50 to 60,000 new visitors every week in June, July, and August. And during the peak season, there can be 3,000 vehicles on the beach. Since I've been here, which is 2006, we've had 4 horses hit and killed on the open beach, and there have been 7 horses shot and killed since 2001.
Wow.
So horse-human interaction is very difficult for us to deal with, and we're a small staff, and you've got 7,500 acres and 100 horses on there, and all those people, we're bound to have horse-human interaction.
Yeah, that's a full-time job without a doubt. So what kinds of things do you do to help the horses and protect them?
Well, in the peak season, we hire 19 seasonal staff so that we have eyes on the beach all day long. And then I also hire 2 off-duty police officers who work 8-hour shifts. And I try to schedule them so that at least there are some evenings that we have a presence up the beach too. So it's an expensive proposition. Everyone who works for us carries written information, so they stop and they educate people when they see them. We do have a wild horse ordinance here that makes it illegal to get within 50 feet of a wild horse or to feed, but people sometimes just don't read signs, and they don't read written materials, so it's up to us to stop. And then we also have a lot of people who live up there that live up there for a reason, and that's because they want to live among the horses, and they're very protective of them, so they spend a great deal of time educating visitors as well.
Right. And why was the fund started in the first place, and when did it begin?
Actually, the fund started as a totally grassroots, all-volunteer organization in 1989, because until 1985, the paved road stopped in Duck, North Carolina. So from there north, it was nothing but sand. And once they paved the road from Duck to Corolla and development came in, there were 20 horses hit and killed out on Route 12.
Wow.
And so in 1989, a group of citizens got together in the local fire hall and formed the Corolla Wild Horse Fund. It took them from 1989 to 1995 to raise the necessary funds and get the government permission to install the sound asleep fence that exists right north of Corolla, and also the fence that's on the Virginia-North Carolina line, and move the then remaining 20 horses in 95
Wow.
up into the North Beach area where they are now. And when they were moved in 95, nobody knew if there were horses up there already, how many horses there were. And it's only been since the full-time staff came in 2006 and late 2006 that we have begun to really gather any kind of meaningful data on the horses.
And what kind of problems are you facing now?
Well, as with any isolated herd, and this herd lives on a barrier island, and we have a very high level of inbreeding. One of the first things we did as new staff in 2007 was pull DNA samples with remotely delivered darts. And we had them analyzed by Dr. E. Gus Cothran, who's one of the leading equine geneticists in the country. He's located at Texas A&M University. And at a herd size of 90, we had one of the highest levels of inbreeding of any wild herd anywhere and one of the lowest levels of genetic diversity. So we inherited a management plan that actually calls for a herd size of 60. So if you can imagine that we had that level at 90, what would it be at 60?
Right.
60 is managing for extinction.
Right.
So we did that also because United States Fish and Wildlife Service owns about a third of the land where the horses live, and that's actually one of the things that confuses people. They think the horses live in a horse sanctuary or on the national refuge, and really only about 11 horses live on refuge property. The remaining 90 live on private property. So the reason for the DNA was to provide U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service with peer-reviewed science that said we can't manage at 60. The recommendation minimum is 120 to 130, with never less than 110. That's how the horses on Shackelford Banks have been managed for the last 16 years on half the land. So it makes sense that our horses deserve the same type of management. However, we were told no.
Why?
The Currituck National Wildlife Refuge is owned by United States Fish and Wildlife Service, and they, as well as all government entities that are under the Department of Interior, define wild horses as a non-native, feral, invasive species and a pest animal. And their mission is to provide a habitat for native wildlife. And we've had that argument ad nauseum about horses as native wildlife. They are. They evolved here in North America. But sometimes I think our government doesn't like to be confused with the facts. And so they look at them as a non-native species. And the way they handle non-native invasive species is to eradicate them. Well, eradication is a strong word, but it's their word. And they can't do that here because it would cause such a public relations nightmare. The horses are the #1 tourist attraction here.
Absolutely.
However, if you set the herd size at a number so low that they will eventually have a genetic collapse, problem solved.
Right. Right. And what can we do to prevent that from happening?
Well, we've been working on federal legislation since 2010. The Corolla Wild Horses Protection Act, which is H.R. 126, has passed the United States House unanimously twice. I can't get it through the Senate. It passed in June of this year, and it never was referred to committee. Last year, at least, it was referred to the Environment and Public Works Committee, but it never came out for a hearing. This is a federal issue, not a local issue. So no matter where your viewers are, and no matter what part of North Carolina, this is a North Carolina state horse, everybody needs to contact their senators, their United States senators, and tell them that they strongly support the Corolla Wild Horses Protection Act, that they don't want to see these horses become extinct, because that's what's going to happen.
Why would they not be already under federal law if federal law protects all of the other wild horses in the United States?
That's only east of the west of the Mississippi.
Okay.
Those are horses that are on federal land in the West. That the Wild Horse and Burro Act that was passed in 1971 does not apply to the horses on the East Coast. And in many ways, that's probably a good thing, because it allows a non-governmental organization like us to manage the horses rather than the Bureau of Land Management, Fish and Wildlife Service, or the National Park Service.
Right, right. So you guys do all kinds of fundraisers. So do you have anything coming up soon?
We have the Mustang Music Festival coming up October 11th and 12th here in Corolla. It's an amazing event. This is its third year. It grows every year. There is music for every genre, whatever your taste is. There's going to be a band that you'll like. There's great food. We'll have a horse there, so people can have an opportunity to see one of these horses that we've rescued and tamed, and is legally pettable. And we would invite everybody to come out, and a lot of the real estate companies do special deals on house rentals for that weekend, so you get a reduced rate. You don't have to rent for the whole week. You can just come for the week. They run shuttles from, if you want to stay down further from Corolla, there's shuttles that'll run you up for free. And it's just really a great time.
That sounds wonderful. And you guys will be at the State Fair this year too, at the Year of the Horse?
Yes, we're really excited about doing that. Christina will be there with one of our horses, and hopefully we'll be able to show people that these horses are incredible athletes. They're extremely intelligent. They're very easy to train, and they might be small, but they're really mighty.
Right, absolutely. All right, so and people can go to your website and make donations to your project
Our
year-round?
website is CorollaWildHorseFund.com. We also have a great Facebook page. It's updated almost daily. Lots of beautiful pictures of the horses, and there's a multitude of ways that you can help us. One way would be to become a member. For as little as $10, you can be a person that gives the horses a voice. Members are voters, and voters give the horses a voice.
All right, very good. Well, thank you for having us today, and stay tuned because we're going to go over to the rehab facility and find out how you can adopt one of these horses. Thanks.
Looking for the perfect bed and bail? From the moment you drive through the gate, relax and enjoy all Hawks Crest Manor has to offer. Whether you're coming for a wedding, a family reunion, a trail ride, a weekend away with the girls, or from a busy, bustling meeting in the city, make our house your home. Located in Spring Hope, North Carolina, minutes from downtown Raleigh, Rocky Mount, or Wilson. Schedule your reservation today.
You know, you don't need a PhD in tractorology to understand that more power is a good thing. Mahindra tractors are engineered for maximum power and backed by a 5-year powertrain warranty. Yes, sir, Mahindra tractors even have enough power to give the competition a lift. Take a good look at the world's #1 selling tractor, Mahindra.
So tell me about this one.
The larger horse here, his name is Amadeo, and he is a stallion who was pulled from the beach in a rescue. He had been known for a while that he was blind in one eye. He had been injured during a stallion fight when he was younger. And he's one of the horses that we have loads of photos from tourists who came out and they just loved him. He was really majestic and he just looked beautiful. Last year he injured his other eye in a fight with a rival stallion. And after losing his vision in that eye due to the injury, he became disoriented and ended up at the edge of the ocean. And while he was in the ocean, he got picked up by a riptide and was pulled out to sea. He landed on a sandbar, which was really lucky. Ocean Rescue played a big part, along with the Corolla Wild Horse Fund, and were able to rescue him and bring him back to shore. But it was pretty quickly apparent that there was a lot going on with him. So he was brought and put under veterinary care. They helped with the eyes, and they also found that he had a lot of issues going on with his blood work. So he was put on a specialized diet and was managed in a very specific way to help combat some of the liver damage that he had sustained on the island. So he's fully recovered now. He still has no vision in either eye, but he gets along great. The little horse that's with him is Felix, who's 2 years old this year. And Felix acts as Amadeo's seeing eye dog, and they follow each other around and they get along great together.
That's a sweet story. So how lucky, I mean, he was swept out to sea and was saved. That's amazing.
It is, yeah.
And how old would you say he is?
We figure he's in his mid to late teens. He looks a little older if you were comparing him to a domestic horse, but that's just kind of tribute to the harsh conditions that they face in the wild.
So he'll just live out the rest of his days here in peace with Felix,
He will,
taking care
yep.
of him.
Yep.
All right, a good ending to a possibly treacherous story.
Yes.
So Christina, this is a famous little guy off Facebook. Can you tell his story?
Sure, this is Vivo, and he's about 4 months old now. He was born the Saturday before Memorial Day of this year, and he was born to this mare over here, Mimosa, and we got a call from a concerned visitor about his back legs because he was walking weird. So when we found them and we were able to take a look at what he was doing with his legs that looked so weird, we found that he had contracted tendons in his back legs, and that forced him to walk on his tippy toes. So we consulted with our vet. We sent him lots of photos and videos and asked him, is this something that would resolve itself on the island? Because we don't want to pull any of the horses off the island unless we absolutely have to. Upon viewing those videos and making some recommendations, our vet team decided that it would be in his best interest to pull both him and his mother off the island and treat him for the contracted tendons. And the contracted tendon's name is a little bit of a misnomer because it's not the actual tendon that's contracted, it's the muscle right above it. So Vivo was treated by IV antibiotics 3 times a day, and that's a kind of, or sorry, three days in a row. And that sounds kind of funny because you don't think of antibiotics as fixing something like that, but it does have the effect of relaxing that muscle above the tendon and allowing the leg to fall into a normal spot. So he had his legs wrapped for 7 days in vet wrap and gauze, and when we cut them off on the 7th day with the vet there, his legs were completely back to normal. So
Yeah, they
now
look great.
Yeah, he's back to being a normal baby. And so now he's on a management program that makes sure that he gets the best nutrition, and he gets lots of outside time so that he can keep moving around and keep everything stretched out the way it's supposed to be.
And is he for adoption?
He will be eventually. He's not currently because he's still with his mother. He hasn't been weaned yet.
Right.
But eventually he'll be weaned, and then he'll have the continuation of his halter training. And eventually he and his mother Mimosa will be available for adoption through our nationwide adoption program.
Very good. And how do people find out about that? From your website?
Yeah, they can go to our website. It's CorollaWildHorseFund.com, and it's got all the information there, and it's got photos of all the horses we have for adoption right now. We try and have our horses that are over 3 years of age. They're usually trained and saddle trained. So those horses are a great option for somebody who wants to ride, and then we have some younger horses that have been halter trained and are used to being around people but are not saddle trained yet.
Right. You're too cute. It's a good thing you can't go today. And then we have another one over here, a bay pony that we need to look at.
Yeah, sure. We can meet Freedom. So this is Freedom. He is a 3-year-old colonial Spanish Mustang, and his mother was rescued. She had fallen into one of the canals up in Corolla, and after she had been rescued from the canal, the team of Wild Horse Fund employees realized that there was something else wrong with her. So what they realized later on when they did the vet consult and had radiographs done is that she actually had a fracture in her femur. So she was brought over and she was treated with our vet team. And then a couple months later, Freedom was born, and he was born on July 4th.
He's gorgeous. So he's saddle trained and all?
He is saddle trained, yep. He spent last spring, or this past spring, at Martin Community College as part of their colt starting program. And from there, his training was continued at Mill Swamp Indian Horses in Virginia. And then this summer, he has spent the summer being an awesome educational tool, and he goes with us to Duck and Corolla. And he has given pony rides, and he does a great job showing what a really sweet and gentle breed of horse these are.
Very nice. So he's ready to adopt now.
Yeah, he's ready to adopt now.
All right. So if anybody's out there looking for a pony for their kids for Christmas, he would be an ideal candidate.
He would.
Tell us Rico's story.
Rico is a 5-year-old gelding who was pulled from the island as a stallion. He was found 3-legged lame and could barely walk. He was rescued off the island and brought in with our vet team. And when they did radiographs on him, they found that he had a fracture in his coffin bone, which a lot of times can be almost a death sentence for most horses. Right. Luckily, he was able to be rehabbed. He actually wore a cast for a while. His prognosis was really, really guarded, and they didn't think he was going to be able to survive it. But lucky for us, he has, and he's 100% sound now.
He's gorgeous. And so he's for adoption as well?
Yep, he's up for adoption, and he's another one who has been saddle trained. He spent this spring at Mill Swamp Indian Horses as well, where he gave at-risk youth, wounded warrior project, and police officer training at that facility. And he loves to go on trail rides, and he's just a really nice, gentle horse.
Very, very nice.
He's really handsome.
All right, well, if you guys are in the market for anything for your kids, you know, it sounds like that this might be the place to come and look, because what better than to have North Carolina's state horse,
Yeah.
a previous wild horse, and rescuing and adopting a horse that really needs a forever kind of home. Thank you so much for your tour today. I've really enjoyed spending time with you.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. We were
And
happy to have you.
very nice to learn about your educational programs and all the great things that you guys are doing.
Well, thank you.
I sure have had a good time today on Corolla with these wild horses. They're such beautiful, sweet, sensitive animals, and if any species of creature ever deserve to be saved and taken care of, it's definitely our horses. I have a good update on the Corolla wild horse herd. After many years of work, they were able to introduce a colonial Spanish Mustang stallion from the Shackelford Banks herd named Gus. It's our hope that Gus will bring back genetic diversity to this herd, which without it would surely have led to extinction. The director and the herd manager made the 9-hour trip and picked Gus up, brought him back to Corolla, and released him in an area with relatively few horses, readily available fresh water, and plenty of grazing. Looks like Gus is settling in really well with his new herd and his surroundings.
This is Paul Dunn from Mule City Feeds. We've been delivering horse feed to eastern North Carolina since 1981. And not only have we been delivering it, we've been leading the industry so far as compliance with state North Carolina and giving the best quality product possible. We test everything that comes in from the local farmers, we do quality assurance, and we deliver the product. Give us a chance. Your neighbors giving us a chance. We'd like to have your business here at Mule City Feeds. Also, when you deal with the big feed companies, you might have to wait 4 or 5 days just to get the feed. Give us a call and you'll be shocked we'll deliver in an hour.
We're your neighborhood source for everything you need from your farm to your home.
At Harper Sales and Service, a division of Harper Landscaping, we can cater to all your mowing needs. Whether you need to start out with a beginner series for those smaller lawns, you can work your way all the way up to a 0 turn and even get into those bigger areas where you might have an acre or 2 or more.
My animals depend on me, and I depend on Harper Equipment Sales and Services to keep me running. From my weed eater to my tractor, they can fix it all.
When you look for Harper Landscaping, it's no sweat.
And also by Carolina Hoofbeats Magazine, a free publication about the horse industry in North Carolina. Catch up on the latest issue at carolinahoofbeats.com. And also by Southeast Equine Magazine, a free publication about the horse industry in the southern United States.
Sitting high in the saddle, nothing else matters. My feet